Have you ever wondered if a silent change in the rules is, draining your wallet without you even realizing it? Because this month, a massive shift in VA healthcare rules went into effect, and thousands of veterans are about to face unexpected medical bills, and even deductions from their disability checks, simply because no one told them.
Yeah, it is unfortunately the reality of administrative policymaking. I mean, a line of code changes in a federal billing algorithm quietly behind the scenes, but the financial impact, it hits your physical mailbox very loudly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Veterans Briefing. Today, our core mission is unpacking three major structural VA healthcare copay changes that just took effect in August 2026.
Right, and it's a lot to cover.
It really is. By the end of this discussion, you will understand exactly how these unannounced changes impact your wallet, how they affect your copay exemptions, and how they can actually trigger automatic deductions from your disability compensation.
And most importantly, we are going to walk you through the exact steps you need to take right now to protect your finances. Because, understanding these mechanisms is what separates being a passive recipient of government healthcare from being an active manager of your benefits.
Exactly.
There is a sea of information out there right now, but if you understand the why and the how behind these shifts, you can navigate it.
So let's start by looking at the actual cost of care, specifically these new rate increases. Because to understand why August 2026 is such a shock to the system, we really need a quick refresher on how the VA triages your wallet.
Right, because they don't just have a flat fee for everyone who walks through the door of a medical center.
No, not at all. They assign every enrolled veteran into one of 8 priority groups. And that assignment is, that's what dictates your financial obligation.
Yeah, the whole architecture of that system actually goes all the way back to 1996. The government realized they couldn't provide free, unlimited care to every single veteran without bankrupting the system, so they instituted a cost-sharing model.
Right. And Priority Group 1 is the most protected tier, right?
Exactly. Group 1 covers veterans who have service-connected disabilities rated at 50% or higher. If you fall into that category, you pay absolutely zero copays for any VA care.
Wow.
Yeah, the system just absorbs the entire cost.
Okay, and then Priority Group 2 provides reduced copays for veterans with, I think it's a 30% to 40% rating.
You got it. But the vast majority of veterans interacting with the billing department, they fall into the middle and lower tiers, Priority Groups 3 through 8.
And those groups encompass a massive population. A lot of people listening right now.
Oh, absolutely. Group 3 includes former prisoners of war, Purple Heart recipients, veterans with 10% to 20% readings. And then groups 4 through 8, they cover veterans based on this whole matrix of income levels and non-service connected medical needs.
Got it. So if you are in groups 3 through 8, you are essentially the primary revenue driver for the VA's cost-sharing model. You're subject to standard copays based on a fixed rate.
Right. And before August 1st, that structure was incredibly static. It was very predictable.
Yeah, a primary care visit was what, $15?
Yep, $15. A specialty care visit was $50. And mental health visits were $15. You knew exactly what a trip to the clinic was going to cost you out of pocket.
Which is nice. That predictability is a comfort.
It was a comfort, but, it was also a vulnerability because the broader healthcare market has been experiencing historic inflation.
Yeah.
The VA eventually had to reconcile their internal fixed rates with the external reality of rising medical costs.
Which brings us to the August 1st update.
Exactly. Effective August 1st, 2026, the primary care copay for veterans in groups 3 through 8 jumped from $15 to $20 per visit.
And the specialty care copay jumped from $50 to $65 per visit.
Right. Now, mental health treatment copays did remain at $15.
Oh, that's good.
It is. It reflects a very distinct policy choice to avoid placing financial barriers in front of psychological care. But for physical medicine, the burden just got heavier.
So I can already hear someone listening to this and, doing the rough math in their head. A $5 increase for a checkup, a $15 increase to see a cardiologist. On paper, it barely sounds like a rounding error in a federal budget.
Right, it sounds small.
But it's that subscription fatigue, right? Small, unnoticeable monthly fees that just silently eat a budget alive. We are not talking about a healthy 25-year-old going in for an annual physical once a year.
No, not at all.
The average veteran in these priority groups manages multiple chronic, non-service connected conditions. So let's pull this specific scenario from our source material. Imagine a Priority Group 5 veteran. They are seeing a primary care doctor quarterly, so 4 times a year, to manage their general health. And they are seeing a specialty doctor monthly for, let's say, severe arthritis.
Okay, let's run the back-end math on that patient's profile. Under the old rates, that veteran paid $15 4 times a year, which is $60. And they paid $50 12 times a year for specialty care, so that's $600.
So their annual obligation to the VA was a highly predictable $660.
Exactly. Now we map that exact same medical schedule onto the new August 2026 rates. The math changes drastically.
Yeah.
They are now paying $20 4 times a year, totaling $80, and $65 12 times a year for specialty care, which comes out to $780. So their new annual baseline is $860.
That is a sudden, unannounced $200 annual increase. And the veteran did absolutely nothing differently.
Right.
Their health didn't decline. Their income didn't change. They didn't ask for premium services. The back-end formula was just simply updated to absorb medical inflation, and the cost was pushed down to the veteran.
And, the lack of proactive communication is what transforms this from a routine policy update into a severe budget shock. The VA relies really heavily on systemic automation for billing. Nobody generated a letter to that Priority Group 5 veteran in July warning them to adjust their household budget by $200. The software just updated the billing codes at midnight on August 1st.
Which brings up a massive blind spot for anyone on an automated payment plan. Think about it if you had a lingering VA medical bill from early 2026 and you set up a direct debit of, say, $50 a month to chip away at it. Well, that automated plan is still running on the old math.
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
So if you're receiving new care in August and September, those new $65 specialty charges are stacking up faster than your old $50 a month plan can cover them. You could actually be slipping into debt while thinking you are perfectly current.
That is a really critical operational detail. The automated systems do not proactively increase your authorized payment plan to match the new rates.
You have to do it manually.
Right. You have to manually intervene. You need to pull your statements and recalculate your monthly obligations to ensure you aren't secretly falling behind simply because the database updated its pricing tier.
If you're finding these discussions helpful, please subscribe to Veterans Briefing so you never miss important updates and practical information for veterans and their families.
It really is vital to stay ahead of these administrative mechanics before they hit your bank account.
So, okay, they've raised the rates to absorb inflation, but how do they actually decide who gets hit with the bill? Because the VA doesn't just charge everyone in those middle groups uniformly.
No, they don't.
They maintain a means-based copay exemption. They draw an income line, and if you fall below it, you don't pay these new rates. You pay nothing. But for August 2026, that line just moved.
Yeah, it did. The mechanism they use to draw that line is called the means test. And it's not a flat national metric, The federal government acknowledges that a dollar in San Francisco operates very differently than a dollar in rural Ohio.
Sure.
So to account for this, the VA relies on geographically adjusted income thresholds. And those are heavily influenced by localized cost of living and housing data.
I think of this geographic adjustment like a moving tectonic plate.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. You are a veteran standing perfectly still on the surface. Your pension is exactly the same. Your part-time job pays exactly the same, but the economic ground shifts beneath you.
Okay.
And suddenly you are dropped into a completely different financial zone without taking a single step.
That is the perfect analogy because the shift is entirely out of your control. For August 2026, the VA integrated updated cost of living data into their means test algorithm. In major urban centers where inflation and housing costs skyrocketed, the algorithm pushed the income threshold upward.
Which creates a strange unintended benefit for city dwellers, right?
It is, yes.
Because if you live in a high-cost area and your income was just barely above the old threshold, you were paying standard copays. But because the tectonic plate moved upward, your static income might now suddenly fall below the new line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The algorithm now views you as requiring financial protection, meaning you suddenly qualify for a full copay exemption. You could be writing checks to the VA right now that you no longer legally owe under the August rules.
Okay, so the urban veterans are experiencing the positive side of algorithmic adjustments. But the rural veterans are facing the exact opposite reality, right?
Yes, unfortunately. In many lower-cost rural geographic areas, the localized data algorithms actually adjusted the income thresholds downward.
Wait, why would it go down? Inflation hit everywhere.
I know, it seems counterintuitive. But it comes down to data lag and how regional economic indices are calculated. The localized data the VA relies on often heavily weights housing and rental markets.
Okay.
So if a rural area saw a slight stabilization in housing costs compared to a historic peak, while overall national wages ticked up just slightly, the algorithm interprets that as increased localized purchasing power.
Ah.
And consequently, it lowers the exemption threshold.
So just to be crystal clear, a veteran living in a rural area whose actual purchasing power at the grocery store feels terrible is being told by a federal algorithm that they are doing well enough to lose their medical financial aid.
Yeah.
Their income hasn't gone up a single cent.
Yeah.
But they could suddenly lose their copay exemption and start getting billed just because the VA adjusted a geographic line on a map.
Precisely. That is exactly what is happening. They have been utilizing VA healthcare for years without seeing a single bill. Now they're suddenly above the new lower threshold, so they are going to start receiving copay bills for their standard care at those newly inflated August rates of $20 and $65.
Wow.
And the first time they find out is when the envelope arrives in the mail.
The frustration there is immense.
Yeah.
I mean, you are caught in an algorithmic crossfire. What is the solution here? How does a veteran prove their actual financial reality to the machine?
The manual override is a proactive financial disclosure. Because remember, the geographic threshold adjustments apply immediately to any medical services received on or after August 1st. It's not retroactive.
Right.
The system defaults to its new baseline. So if your income has dropped, or if you live near the threshold and think you might qualify now, you must submit an updated financial disclosure using VA Form 1010EZ.
And you can't just wait for the annual review.
Absolutely not. The billing algorithm runs daily. You have to submit the 1010EZ at va.gov immediately to force a recalculation of your specific profile.
That makes sense.
Yeah, this is how you reclaim your exemption status based on real-time numbers, rather than waiting for a lagging regional economic indicator to dictate your bills.
Let's follow the timeline here because this leads us right into the most severe mechanical change in this entire update. So we have newly inflated copay rates, and we have a shifting geographic plate that is stripping exemptions away from rural veterans who aren't expecting it.
Right.
This guarantees a massive spike in unpaid bills simply because people won't know they owe money. So what happens when a veteran inevitably misses one of these surprise bills?
Well, it triggers the accelerated debt collection machinery, and this is the third major change. Prior to August, the VA's debt collection process was bureaucratic and notoriously slow. There was a substantial buffer built into the timeline.
Yeah, it used to take a while.
It did. If you missed a bill, you had months of notices, multiple grace periods, ample time to appeal before the VA referred your debt to the Federal Treasury Department for aggressive collection. But the August regulatory update stripped that buffer away to increase administrative efficiency.
The timelines didn't just shrink, they collapsed entirely. Previously, you had a 120-day notice period before an unpaid bill was kicked over to the VA's Debt Management Center. As of August, that has been cut to just 60 days.
Just 60 days, yes.
If you get a surprise bill in August, it is in the hands of the debt collectors by October.
And the acceleration continues even after it hits the Debt Management Center. Historically, a debt would sit at the center for 180 days while they attempted to contact you and establish a resolution. Now, that window is slashed to 90 days.
So a surprise bill generated in August could realistically be referred to the Treasury Department for federal collection by early 2027.
Yeah.
That is blindingly fast for a government agency. But the speed isn't even the most shocking part of the Treasury referral. The core shock is the change to the benefit offset trigger.
Right, and we need to define the term offset here for anyone unfamiliar. An offset is a systemic garnishment. When you owe a federal debt, the government has the authority to digitally reach into your incoming federal payments, like your monthly VA disability compensation check, and deduct the money you owe before the check is even deposited into your bank account.
Right, the Treasury Offset Program, I was reading up on the legacy guidelines for that.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, the government wouldn't initiate an automatic deduction from your check unless the unpaid debt was over $25.
Exactly.
Because it was a purely pragmatic rule, right? The administrative overhead and processing fees required for a human to initiate the garnishment paperwork actually cost the government more than the $20 they were trying to collect.
Yeah, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Right. So did the August update actually remove that floor entirely?
It removed it entirely. The new threshold to trigger a benefit payment offset is exactly $0.
Wow. Wait, so if a veteran simply forgets to pay a single $20 primary care copay, The VA can now automatically deduct that $20 directly from their monthly disability check once the timeline runs out.
Yes, that is exactly what happens. The human element has been removed from the microprocessing. The VA and the Treasury no longer rely on clerks filing garnishment paperwork for small debts. The databases now talk to each other seamlessly.
So it costs them nothing to collect it.
Right. The administrative cost to offset a $15 debt is practically zero because a line of code executes it instantaneously. Therefore, the $25 buffer is obsolete.
That is a staggering shift in power.
It is, but I want to be clear, there is no need to panic.
Right.
While this is true, veterans have immense power to stop the clock.
How so? Because there's no final warning letter, right? It just reduces the outbound digital transfer to your bank. If your disability check is, say, $1,900 and you owe $65, your next deposit is just smaller.
Exactly. But the machinery, while fast and automated, is not unstoppable. By calling the VA billing line at 1-888-827-4877 or visiting pay.va.gov, veterans can request a waiver, appeal a charge, or simply set up a payment plan.
And setting up a payment plan actually stops the offset.
Yes, establishing a payment plan is the most powerful tactical maneuver you have. And what most people do not realize is that the VA does not dictate a rigid minimum monthly payment to establish a plan.
Wait, really? If I owe $500, they don't demand $50 a month.
No, they prioritize compliance over speed of recovery. If you have an aggregated balance of $300 and you go into the portal and formally agree to a structured payment plan of $10 or $20 a month, the system accepts it.
That's amazing.
And more importantly, the moment that agreement is logged, the aggressive collection and offset timeline freezes immediately.
Because the database registers the debt as managed.
Exactly. A managed debt cannot be referred to the Debt Management Center, and it cannot trigger a Treasury offset against your disability check. You protect your larger, vital monthly income by feeding the algorithm a small, predictable payment.
It is entirely about taking the wheel before the autopilot drives you off a cliff. Let's consolidate everything we've broken down today into 3 actionable takeaways.
Absolutely. Takeaway 1, copays for primary care, which is now $20, and specialty care, which is $65, have increased. You need to adjust your budget.
Right. Takeaway 2. The means test thresholds have shifted geographically, meaning you may need to re-verify your exemption status with Form 1010EZ, especially if you live in a rural area.
And takeaway 3, the debt collection timeline is twice as fast, and the VA can now offset your benefits for any unpaid balance, starting at $0.
Which leads directly to the one practical action step you need to take right now. Check your current VA billing statements at pay.va.gov today. If you have any outstanding balance from 2025 or 2026, set up a payment plan today to freeze the collection clock.
It really is the best way to assert control over a system designed to operate without your input.
It leaves you with something to really mull over, right? Consider how relying on institutions to notify you of changes can leave you so vulnerable. In an era of constant administrative updates, making a habit of proactively checking your own portals and statements isn't just good housekeeping, it's the best defense for your financial security.
I completely agree.
We want to hear from you, so please drop a comment below and let us know if you've noticed these new charges on your recent VA statements, or if you have any questions about that Form 1010EZ. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more updates. Thank you for watching Veterans Briefing. Take care, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next episode.